Hey, Bulls and Bears, back with another dose of financial news and another economic collapse report. And yes, it is an economic collapse. It may not look like it because what you see and what's actually happening are very two different things. All right, so we're going to get into it today. First of all, please make sure you hit that like button and get this video some traction so we can get this to more people, and hopefully more people will figure out what's going on here to brace for what's coming here. All right, so let's go ahead and start right here. Now, first of all, we're told that the economy is so strong that we need to start cutting rates. Does that make any sense? If the economy is strong, why do we need to start cutting rates? Well, it's interesting because we have this John Williams fellow here from the Fed saying that the Fed is not talking about cutting rates, even though Jerome Powell came out and said, yes, we've got 3 rate hikes on the table in 2024. So the market's exploded higher. Everybody's happy about this easy money. That should be the first clue right there. If you gauge the economy by the stock market, but the stock market's going up because of the promise of easy money, that should be a big clue. A big clue. What would happen? What do you think would happen? And I'd like to hear from you down in the comments. What do you think would happen if we stopped creating money out of thin air and if we stopped accumulating all this massive debt, both nationally, corporate, even individual debt, household debt? What do you think would happen? A complete implosion, right? This illusion of a great economy, the jobs, the stock market, all these things that actually look good on the surface, which they're not really when you dig into it, but they look good on the surface, are only possible because of infinite money creation, money created out of thin air at the click of a mouse, right? At the click of a mouse, they could bring the stock market up to double, triple. Of course, they're not going to do anything that crazy because that would wake everybody up. They'll say, wow, this doesn't make any sense. What's going on? So they don't want everybody to realize that it's all rigged and manipulated. So, of course, they're not going to do something that drastic. But yes, this could be dropped down at the click of a mouse, inflated at the click of a mouse. This is digital money on a screen that they're using to push stock prices around. Of course, we have stock buybacks from these corporations. 1 in 10 corporations are actually zombie companies, meaning they're losing money, and the only way they can stay in business is to roll over their debt or just take on new debt to maintain operations. So, huge problem there. Eventually, the rubber's going to hit the road on that one. We don't know exactly when, but we do know it's going to happen, right? So, it's not if, but when. But let's get into the news here. Let's talk about not the Wall Street economy. Let's talk about the Main Street economy for a minute. And what do we say right here on this channel for a long time, all the way back to the beginning of the year when they announced that students are going to have to repay their loans in the fall starting in October? Well, here we are 2 months later, and it's much worse. It's much worse than I thought here. Let me bring up some information on this for you. How many students made their payments in October when they had to resume their student loan payments? And if you go back a few months right here on this channel, I said that I didn't believe that most students would be able to make their payments in October. I said that more students would miss their payments or not make their payment versus making their payments, right? It was going to be bad, is what I said, basically. That most students wouldn't make their payments. Guess what? We were right. People said I was doom and gloom. People said that, I'm negative, that I'm just, forecasting negative stuff without any evidence. I mean, sometimes you have to look forward and try to guess what's going to happen in order to live. I mean, you have to plan for things. So forward looking is the way we should be. We should look and see what's ahead of us. So take a look at this, folks. We were correct. More than half of the students could not make their payments. 60%, in fact, paid late when student loan payments returned. So we couldn't get through 2 months. I hate to laugh, but this is pretty sad, actually. But it's just so funny that nobody else, really, very few people can see, how bad this really is. And when we say things here, we're not just being doom and gloom. These are the facts based on the numbers, the levels of debt, and just common sense. And things are just going to continue to get worse. I think next they're going to have to re-implement the student loan forgiveness. Instead of a pause, they're going to have to end up just wiping out the debt. There's a lot of speculation out there that there's going to be massive debt forgiveness, but the part B to that, or the flip side to that, is going to be that you're going to have to accept a new digital currency. That's just what a lot of people are saying. I don't have 100% proof of that, but we've heard even the bankers themselves talk about a central digital currency that needs to be implemented, right? So could this massive debt accumulation be the tool to get us into that next monetary system where everything's tracked, everything's monitored? You can't do anything in cash. That way, you can't do anything outside the system. You can't do anything outside of the view of the upper level bankers, if you know what I mean. So this is really bad, folks, and I wish I had better news to give you here. Quick, I wanted to give you a source. This is out of WRAL, and the number comes up to 9 million student loan borrowers missed their first payment after the pause ended. We couldn't get through 2 months without most students unable to make their payments. So, how good is the economy really? Now, you may say, JJ, these are just students. This is not a reflection of the entire economy. When those surveys were done stating that most people live paycheck to paycheck, that most people are in the most debt that they've ever been, it wasn't just including students. This particular news today is just a snapshot of the overall population and what's happening, right? But so many people are just used to living in debt. I mean, it's really no big deal to a lot of people because people have accepted just being in debt for life as the new normal. But if you're someone that doesn't have a lot of debt and maybe someone that gets debt, maybe swipes your credit card, goes shopping, and pays it off every month, and therefore you're in debt, but then you're paying it off every month. See what I mean? So you're not going further into debt. You're staying level and zero debt. If that's you, then you are a very small percentage of the population. It's very interesting how that works, isn't it? So when they say the stock market's doing great, the unemployment number is low, why don't we just look at simple facts like this and figure out what's really happening, right? So what do we need to do? Why are we talking about this? We need to brace for things to get worse. We've got the bankers out there talking about cutting rates, but then they say, no, we're not talking about cutting rates, right? So how do you figure out how to plan what to do? It's very confusing, right? But let's go to the latest here. We have John Williams, one of the presidents of the Fed, basically saying they're not discussing rate cuts, when in fact we just heard from Jerome Powell recently saying, yes, we're on tap or basically scheduled for 3 rate cuts in 2024. So they can't even figure out what they're doing, but yet people still believe what they're saying, and they're making investment plans based on what they're saying they're doing when they just flip it the very next week. And sometimes just days later, they'll say the complete opposite, right? So think about this. We have the stock market surging because of the announcement of those possible rate cuts. Investors are buying up everything because of what he said, and then they come out and reverse it just a short while later, right? How is it just me, or is this completely insane? Is this an insane way to invest? But we see what's happening with the stock market. It's surging, and I said there was going to be a massive short squeeze. And remember, that was even before the announcement of the rate cuts. Because typically, what do they do when the recession hits so badly that everyone realizes it? Typically, they pump the market up to try to get everyone distracted, to try to throw everyone off, confuse people. They try to keep these bubbles inflated as long as possible. And sometimes, right before the bust, you see the biggest surge upward. And what they do is they squeeze all those short investors out of there, the people that are shorting the markets and betting against, the bull market and are bearish. They're shorting those people out of there, pushing them out of their positions. Then you see the massive drop, the massive collapse. Now, that's the best case scenario. The worst case scenario is they pump so much money into the system, we have an inflationary recession slash depression. That's much worse than deflation, right? So a lot of people out there are scared of a crashing stock market, falling home prices. They're afraid of the crash or the deflationary collapse. What's much worse is the inflationary collapse. And we haven't seen it here in the US because we have the world's reserve currency. But think about if we didn't, and think about what's happening with the dollar right now and how this could end up if we see infinity to no end, QE into infinity, I should say, if we see another rock bottom drop, interest rates, what's going to happen if the monetary policy pushes this into an inflationary depression instead of a crash or deflation, right? To me, it's pretty scary. So that's why I always say try to invest for both ways, both plays, because trying to figure out exactly which way it's going to go when the people that steer the economy the people that engineer the economy can't even figure out amongst themselves what they're going to do and what's going on. How's anyone supposed to figure this out, right? So please let me know what you think down in the comments. To me, this is absolutely beyond insane. Uh, Call it what you will, mind boggling. Anyways, what we want to do is prepare for what's coming. Inflationary depression would be bad. A lot of people are hoping that this whole thing just implodes and we can collapse. The prices would fall, the prices would drop. A lot of people would lose their jobs, yes, but we could pick up the pieces, then begin much better on a much more solid ground. And with the cost of living and with prices that actually makes sense based on how much money people are making, not how much liquidity we can pump in, not how many rescue programs we can put out, not how low we can drop interest rates, not how much debt people can take on, corporations, governments, people. All right, this is insane, folks. And trying to prepare for it, that's the real tough part and the real hard question here. Out of AP here, the Fed could do what was thought impossible: defeat inflation without a steep recession. Wow. Does anyone believe that? I can't believe anyone believes that, but there's articles out there like this: soft landing, defeat inflation. Think about defeating inflation for just a minute here. Have we defeated inflation? You would think that the Fed declaring victory, you would think that they have defeated inflation, but they haven't. Prices are still going up. The cost of living is still going up. Just because it's going up more slowly doesn't mean they've defeated it. Basically, they've admitted defeat themselves, I think, with the whole rate cut announcement. And then they had to backtrack because they realized what a mistake that was. They had to backtrack with this other guy coming out there, Mr. Williams, saying, nope, we're not talking about rate cuts. Absolutely bonkers, folks, but that's what's happening. What do you think about the 60% of students that couldn't even make 2 months worth of payments, but yet they're telling us the economy's great, resilient? Uh, it's crazy, folks. It's going to get more insane than this, believe me. Please let me know what you think down in the comments. Everybody, thanks for being here. Keep stacking. Talk to you soon. Bye now.